Welcome back to good old Casey's Book Corner. This is your one-stop shop, I promise you it is, for book reviews, lists, recommendations, all that good stuff. Today is a teeny tiny little bit different. Still doing a book review, but I'm doing a review on a compilation of short stories by Stephen King. So what I'm going to do, just to shake things up a tiny bit, I'm going to list these stories with a little tiny synopsis from my least to my most favourite. I'm excited! It took me blinking ages to decide what ones were my favourite and what order they were going to go in, because they're all so good. Oh, so hard to decide. But decide I have done. We're going to get cracking momentarily, but before then, hopefully you're starting to know the drill now. Get yourself a wee drinky, pull up a chair. This is now my favourite cup, the one with the hat. It is a witch cup. I have another cup of tea because I'm starting to really enjoy the cups of tea, even though it's roasting outside. I'm not quite sure whether that's doing me any good, but I am going to have a little drink of my cup of tea and then we'll get started. Delicious as always. Now that's all over and done with and we're all comfortable and we're all ready to rock and roll, let's get on with the video. Let's go. So today I am reviewing and listing in order of least to most favourite the short stories in Stephen King's recently released book, You Like It Darker. This book is 100% a 5-star read. It's insane. Stephen King is literally a master at storytelling. He just is. This is a fact. We all know it. Yet here I am, being surprised and flabbergasted at how much these stories got in there. Really got in there and just are going to stay part of my soul. He's brilliant. Brilliant at it. I listened to this on audiobook. The narration is top notch. The narrator has this tone about him that just makes him sound like gravelly and sarcastic and just really helps to bring forward the slightly dark humour that you find in a lot of Stephen King's books. He brings that to life. Really, really well done. And I think it really enhanced the book. That's not to say that I'm not going to nip out and get the physical hardcover as soon as I possibly can. Shall we get started? I think we should get started. Let's do it. So there's 12 stories. I'm going to start with the story that comes in at my number 12. Still excellent. No doubt about it. But my number 12 was the story called The Turbulence Expert. This is basically about some dude whose job it is to sit on aeroplanes that are about to be involved in some sort of disaster and use the power of his mind to prevent the disaster. Is that a spoiler? I don't think it's a spoiler. That's just part of the premise of the book. That's what he does. That's his job. I really enjoyed it. There just wasn't the big twist ending or the big gut-wrenching moment at the end that happens with some of the stories that are a little higher up my list. Really enjoyed it. Just was not twisty like some of the other ones are. Numero 11 is the story called The Dreamers. Now this is about this young guy who takes on this job with a scientific researcher. Slightly creepy, very dubious scientific researcher whose research speciality is the dream world. Now in typical Stephen King style, things are not quite as above board as they would seem. Lovely woven stories where you can really imagine what's happening to these people. I just didn't feel quite as connected to these characters as I do with some of the other characters that I've rated a little bit higher up that list. Really good though, really interesting read. That was my number 11. Next up we've got this story that's got some great social commentary, family dynamics, all this stuff woven through a really short story that covers an hour of these people's lives. You've got a slightly broken family going on a family road trip. You've got granddad, elderly granddad, you've got his son and his wife, and you've got their 2 kids. None of them particularly get on with each other very well. They're on this road trip. They end up on Slide Inn Road, which is the name of this story. Chaos ensues when they are marooned on Slide Inn Road. This story definitely packs a punch. Really enjoyed it, and I definitely liked the family dynamic part of it, where everyone's just clashing with everyone else, and you get that vibe of disdain and contempt underneath it all. Really good. That was my number 10. Number 9 is one of the shorter of the stories in this book. A policeman is interviewing a man who is accused of murdering his wife. This interview and the contents of this interview changed the police officer's life forever. Stephen King winds up the twist on this one. You can kind of feel it coming, leading you into it slowly. And then that dawning realisation happens. I was like, no way. Yes way. And that was my number 9. It's called The Red Screen. Number 8 was the story called Two Talented Bastards. This was a really nice friendship story. We're being told about how these 2 small town best friends from back in the day, how they managed to both suddenly achieve stupendous success. There's a little bit of the old sci-fi going on here. There's a little bit of the friendship, bromance, really cute, good character development. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. It was the first story in this book, and it was a really good way to get the ball rolling on this book. It was really good fun to read about their secret, the secret of their success. I definitely never would have guessed what that secret was. Next up, we've got Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream. Just picture yourself for a second. Imagine that you have a psychic flash, a vision, if you will, and that vision involves something bad happening. What's the worst that could happen? This story tells you what's the worst that could happen. You've got the creepy cop on a mission, V for Vendetta. You've got the slightly more friendly good cop with a little bit of empathy. It comes to a culmination at the end that is just perfect. Perfecto. The 3 main characters in this story are really well fleshed out, particularly for it being a short story, right? It must be really difficult to make you feel connection. Really well done. Enjoyed it. Check. 6th on my list was the story called Laurie. A cute little story about a man and his dog. Or so you think, until Mr. King comes in and weaves his magic. We are given some adventure. We are given some drama. We're given a really good, solid story. I loved watching the relationship between the main character and his new puppy, Laurie. He did not want a puppy. A puppy was thrust upon him, but did he love the puppy? Yes, he did. Really cute story until it's a little bit less cute because it's a Stephen King book and it is called You Like It Darker. It's not going to be roses and unicorns the entire time. Definitely solid and well worth being towards the top of my list. Number 5 was Finn. Finn is a young teenage boy who has terrible luck. All of the time, as long as he is known, he has had bad luck. The one day that this story covers is the worst of all of his terrible luck. All happening at once. He must have been like, oh, not again. There was some kind of light-hearted, sort of almost funny moments. This is where the sarcasm really came in from the narrator. And the ending. So if you have a love-hate relationship with the ending of Inception with the little spinning top, you'll have a love-hate relationship with the ending of this story. It leaves it completely open to your own personal interpretation. Wasn't expecting it. I thought the ending had already happened and we were potentially in the final throes of this story. Kablam! Stephen King's like, nope, whatever you just thought, think again, my friend. Think again. Let me tell you now, I was dithering between 4 and 3, 2 stories, for absolutely ages. I'm still not entirely sure which one I'm going to say right now for number 4. These two are completely interchangeable in my mind. They're both exceptional. So number 4, Willie the Weirdo. This is a story about a young boy called Willie, who is, as the title insinuates, a little bit of a weird kid. He's into like insects and dead things and just stuff that would normally make you slightly avoidant of that unusual child. He lives at home with his family, and that includes his elderly, ailing granddad. You're plonked in to a single snapshot of a really important day in the childhood of Willie. The twist at the end, I had to pull over. I actually had to pull over my car while I was listening to this and just be sat there at the steering wheel like, what just happened? Didn't see it coming. Should have seen it coming now that I think about it, but I didn't. Really, really genius storytelling. We are down to the nitty-gritty now. Number 3 was a story called The Fifth Step. This is another one of the teeny tiny short powerful stories that basically puts you in a bird's eye view of an interaction between 2 strangers who bump into each other in a park. It is as simple as that, but it is the simple ones that lead you down a garden path until you are so far down the garden path you don't realise what's happening until bam! Stephen King's got you again. Chef's kiss to the beauty of that ending. Loved it. Number 2, Rattlesnakes. Rattlesnakes is the sequel to Cujo. It's a complete standalone story, but it does contain Cujo spoilers. If you have not read Cujo and you do not want it to be spoiled, read that first and then come into this one. There has been a significant period of time between the events of Cujo and the events that happen in this story. An elderly widower goes to stay in his friend's house in his friend's absence to get a little bit of respite, a little bit of recuperation, and to just relax. He has had a rough few years. The town is practically empty. It's a holiday town and it's COVID, so there's nobody there apart from the town nutcase. She's not quite got all of her eggs in the basket. Is that a phrase? She's a couple of sandwiches short of a picnic. I think that is a phrase. You've got paranormal stuff, creepiness. This properly creeps you out. I've never really had a jump scare from a book, but that got me pretty close. And there's also a little bit of like poignance to it, a little bit of sentimentality to it. We are on now to the top dog. We are on to the bee's knees. Top of my list, the pinnacle, numero uno. This was the final story in the book, and what a finale it was. This is the story called The Answer Man, and it is my number 1. The Answer Man follows the main character pretty much through his entire life, cross-sectioned with moments in his life where he comes across a man, being, entity called the Answer Man. As the name would suggest, this man answers questions. And the story asks questions like, is our life dictated by fate? Is it destiny? Or is it as a result of choices that we make? It goes that deep. There's like bittersweet moments, and there's sad moments, and there's really quite joyous moments. I cried at the end because it was pretty heartfelt, and I really loved the messaging of the story. I found the messaging to be completely on point on that story, and that's the one that I feel will stay with me. Like it has another purpose. Made me ask these kind of questions of myself, and it kind of reassured me, you know what? Everything's gonna be okay, even when it's not. So that's my 12. That's my ranking list of Stephen King's You Like It Darker. Side note, read the afterwards. Stephen King gives a really entertaining and engaging insight into his process and his inspirations and the things that make him tick. I found it really insightful. I love stuff like that, so definitely don't skip the afterword if you normally would. Definitely read it, it's worth it. That is my rundown complete. Tell me in the comments, what's your top 3 out of that book if you've read it? Are they the same as mine, or are they different? Tell me why. Argue your case. I mean, I've just sat for ages arguing mine, so it's only fair. I will be uploading another video on Monday. It will be my next weekly update. Today is Friday, and I'm off on holiday from work after today, so I'm thoroughly excited. One more shift. So in the meantime, have an amazing weekend, and I will be back with my weekly update on Monday. Until then, bye.